All right, hello, hello, all. We are back. It's my first time for a solo stream, actually, in a while. I do apologize. Been really busy at work, and these solo streams do actually take a little bit more out of me, just because I'm not really used to just filling space with talking. So it's a lot easier for me to like have someone to talk to. So occasionally, I feel very tired at the end of a night and don't want to do a solo stream. But we are back tonight. And yeah, we're gonna find out what the hell is going on with Kazuki's route because this has been a very odd route. So, just introductions in case you've never been here. I'm Kels. I'm going to be voicing pretty much everyone, mostly because there's no one else to voice. I'm not any sort of like professional voice actor, not even like hobby voice actor really. So don't be expecting much, but I will sit here and speculate wildly on bullshit. So that should be fun. Let's recap really quick, because it's been ages since we played this, actually. So, the news reported on a portal device identical to Kazuki's, and a dinosaur monster from SO2 ate the reporter, which Kazuki blames her powers for. Some gamers gossiped about the committee, and Shibuya has been sealed off. We got the club to investigate the devices, bring in monsters despite Nono's worries, and explain Kazuki's power to them. Kazuki apparently thought Serika was our girlfriend, and is such a gamer that we think she uses bottles as a toilet. Yeah, that was a weird thing. Wakui checked on us because he's in a martial law, and he is the committee's assassin according to the gamers. We tried to signal Kazuki to leave, and Wakui heard every noise in our body, but Serika's baseball interrupted him, and they disagreed about committee politics. Wakui answered Nono's phone and held her hostage for Kazuki, and the gamers refused to help us. We had more bonding with Kazuki. So, I think we're going to be at the end of Kazuki's route at the end of this. I don't know for sure, but we'll figure it out. I left the dorm. We talked for a while about how exactly we were going to face Wakui until there was just an hour left before the time he'd given. Fear filled my chest. I took deep breaths so that I could stay calm. There wasn't much we could do. More than anything, if we wanted to use Kazuki's power to its fullest, we needed to go someplace with a lot of people. The most populated place in Shibuya right now was the Hikario. Actually, every other place in Shibuya was empty. Ito had told me yesterday that people without any home except Shibuya had taken the place over. We were lucky that Wakui had told us to go there. The plan was to arrive early and just have Kazuki say as many words as possible. If something happened, good for us. It wasn't even fair to call this a plan. But with only an hour left, there was nothing else we could do. I'm ready. Maybe. Kazuki came out of the dorm. Did you change? Just my skirt and underwear, maybe. Oh, I see. Kazuki had wet herself when Wakui had attacked her, so I made her change. It would have been better if she'd switched into something easier to move around in, but for some reason she was still in her uniform. If we wanted to get to the Hikario, we'd have to avoid the monsters appearing from the portal device. Fortunately, after everyone's efforts yesterday, we knew where they were. I had the location saved on my Pokecom. We could use it to take the safest and shortest route to the Hikario. Kazuki looked gloomy. We were going to die. I didn't blame her. But that didn't mean we could stay here. If we didn't go, we couldn't save Kurase. Let's go. Mm. I urged Kazuki on as we headed for the station. But I'd underestimated things. I'd underestimated how dangerous Shibuya was. I'd underestimated how much the delusion Kazuki had created had echoed. I'd underestimated everything. I ran and found myself in a typical Shibuya back alley. How had this happened? There was a terrifying roar from behind us. The footsteps were loud enough to shake the ground, and they were getting closer. I turned back, afraid and in despair. A huge red dragon thing was following us through the narrow alley. Kazuki was clinging to my arm, completely out of breath. How had this happened? To put it simply, the map was wrong. There was a discrepancy between the map we'd made for the portal devices and where they really were. And because of that, I ran straight into the monsters like an idiot. It was my mistake. I'd been careless. I should have been more careful when going over all this with the newspaper club yesterday. But now that I'd screwed up, there was no sense in dwelling on yesterday's mistakes. At this rate, we'd both end up as dragon food. I wouldn't make it out to the Hikario, and I wouldn't be able to save Kurisu. I didn't plan on surviving anyway. But I had hoped at least that Kurisu could. If I got eaten by a monster here, I would die for nothing. Kazuki was still panting, her shoulders shaking with pain. Her forehead was covered in sweat. I couldn't count on her for anything for a while. This was my screw-up, and I had to be the one to fix it. I looked around. I was looking for my D-sword. If I could just use that weapon too. I'd seen Arimura and Kazuki use it, and I knew well how powerful it was. Maybe that would be enough for me to fight back against that monster. It would be better than trying my karate, at least. So come on! Come on, D-sword, appear! Of course, I had no guarantee it would. It was too much to hope for that I might find my D-sword here. But I had to pray anyway. But it's gone. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it anywhere. Why? Would it hurt to help me out just this once? I couldn't help but complain to God, or maybe fate. Yeah, we definitely took a wrong turn at Albuquerque. Like, if I remember correctly, so the way that this is the bad end. And I think this is where this is reflecting, because in order to get the good end, you have to point out where the things are during the newspaper club scene. So I think we're getting this as a direct result of the fact that we didn't identify where they were correctly because we were going for the bad end. In the face of death, in the face of overwhelming power, why couldn't they at least give me a little hope? Come on, D-sword! I screamed. And the monster screamed too. Oh no, I'd pissed it off. And it was finally starting to calm down. I put my hand over my mouth to stifle a moan of terror. And in my mind, I tried to focus on using the only weapon I had. I was looking at a scooter parked on the road. I glared at it and grit down on my teeth. I focused. Move, I said. If I could use my power to slam it into the monster's head, I could buy us some time. Even if I couldn't use the D-sword, if I could at least use this. I wasn't able to use it at all when I'd been chased by the pyrokinetic, but this time, move! Move! Move, move, move! That's what you're for, right? That's why I was given this power, right? In comics and anime, your power always awakens at times like this. Now! It has to be now! I can't die here. I need to save Kurisu. So move. 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 Move, 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 move! Move! I screamed. I focused. I bit down so hard that I drew blood. But my power didn't appear. Heaven had given up on me. Fate was telling me to die here. Sure, I'll die. I planned on dying anyway. But at least let me choose where I die. This isn't fair. Kazuki! Once again, Save me! I made a selfish request. Do something about that monster! Of this tiny, weak, and silent girl. I gave up and entrusted everything to her. We're going to die at this rate. We'll die before we even get to the Hikario! Kazuki had finally caught her breath. She gulped once and moved away from me towards the monster. You can do something, right? You'll do something, right? She shook her head. I don't know. Maybe, but I have to do what I can. That was all she said. The flame archdragon will die. That was what she screamed. The flame archdragon will die! She was trying to use her word to make a delusion echo again. The flame archdragon will die! But it's hopeless. It's hopeless, Kazuki. Your words won't echo through Shibuya right now. They won't spread. There's a curfew. No one's out here to hear you. The flame archdragon will die! The flame archdragon will die! Kazuki must have known it was useless too. But she kept screaming. The flame archdragon will die! Huh? But even her sad, useless struggle was cut off by a roar that shook the air. The monster had been keeping its distance, but now it howled and charged again. Its huge red body bore down on us. There was nowhere to run. We were going to be eaten just like that reporter. Kazuki, do something! Yeah, once again, quantum physics is making us this bitch. Look, quantum physics is hard. Kazuki readied her D-sword. She stood in front of the monster. She was so small compared to it. But I still had hope. Maybe that sword could do it. Maybe the D-sword... The D-sword could surely kill the monster. Kazuki attacked. She charged at the monster and swung the sword down. Go! Cut through it! We were going to survive and make it to the Hikario. So please, survive, Kazuki. But of course, reality wasn't so kind. The monster howled once more and whipped out its front leg. Kazuki's body flew away. Its legs were thicker than tree trunks, and its claws were sharp. It was a simple matter for it to tear apart a human body. It was just like stepping on an insect. Kazuki was killed. It happened so fast I couldn't even follow it. But still, I screamed. The strength fled from my legs, and the next thing I knew, I was lying on the ground. I couldn't stand. I didn't have the strength. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was an idiot. I was wrong to ever think I could take a monster like this head on. It didn't matter whether I was using my power or the D-sword. The monster ignored the bloody lump that had once been Kazuki and turned towards me. I underestimated it. All the monsters in Shibuya were just so unreal that I felt like I was playing a game. I thought that I would be the one person who was okay. I thought that since Kazuki had created the delusions, they wouldn't attack her. But Kazuki was dead. She'd been slaughtered by the delusions she'd created. This was insane. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to think it was real. A huge jaw swung down in front of me. The breath that came out of it smelled terrible. Terror pierced my body as I heard the monster roar. I was forced to realize that I was powerless to do anything but become its next prey. The monster put no special thought into eating its prey. It just ate what was in front of it. The dragon opened its mouth. I saw countless rows of fangs. It could crush a human skull the same way I could eat a candy bar. I'm sorry, Kurisa. In the end, I couldn't do anything at all. I couldn't save anyone at all. This was all my fault. And now it was time to take responsibility for all the chaos that I'd caused. I could feel the monster's fangs bite deep into my body. And I could tell it had bitten off my torso. Just before everything went back, I realized that this was what it meant to become something's dinner. All right, we hit the bad end. We were a lot closer to the bad end than I thought, but all right, so let's go back and get the good end now. Okay, I believe it's this one. Okay. Let's go ahead and skip forward. I don't remember how long it took me to remember to save, so... Exactly, Vor never changes. I am only disappointed that we didn't get to see that in a CG. Okay. What am I doing? Okay, so I am marking something on the map. Okay. There's that one. And this one. And this one. Okay. So in theory, that was the right ones. And we'll see how that changes everything. But first, we have to go through this thing again because, yeah. I knew Wakui was a bad guy. Like, there was just something about him the whole time. All right. Let's see if we can navigate. Okay, I displayed the map on my Pokécom. It was a photo of the map in the club room I'd taken yesterday. If we wanted to get to the Hikario, we'd have to avoid the monsters appearing from the portal device. The fastest and safest route from the Hikio Dorm 1 to the station was... We'll take Meiji Street. We can take the subway tunnel next to Miyashita Park to go underground and head straight to the Hikario. Kazuki nodded and slowly offered me a piece of dried squid. Did she want me to eat it? So, this is our last meal, huh? I gratefully took the squid from Kazuki and bit into it. The unique smell and taste filled my mouth. It's good. As I felt like I was starting to cry, Kazuki grabbed me by the arm. Her tiny body was still shaking. We were going to die, so of course she was. She may have hated to lose, but that didn't mean she wasn't scared. I patted her lightly on the back to encourage her, then started to lead the way. But our plan quickly hit a stumbling block. Our investigation yesterday hadn't found any portals around here, but... I thought there might be one here. We concealed ourselves as we looked down from the pedestrian bridge onto Meiji Street. 5 huge dragons covered in yellow and black scales were stomping up and down the block. When I looked in the direction of the station, I could see the distinctive light of a portal device 50 meters ahead of us. We went back to the park and hid. That thing wasn't here yesterday. If it was in someplace that obvious, one of us would have seen it. Then it probably appeared sometime since we looked yesterday. So, what do we do now? How were we supposed to get to the Hikario? There wasn't much time left. The portal devices are appearing in a circle around Shibuya Station. The Hikario is right next to the station, on the east side. We can't use the trains. There are no trains coming to Shibuya Station. We may have to do something dangerous, maybe. Like, break through. It's true that getting within a 100-meter radius of a portal device doesn't mean you're definitely going to be attacked. If we can just get through fast without them finding us. What if, for example, we were to run from our present location, the back of Miyashita Park Management Office, over the pedestrian bridge, down the stairs, and then to the subway entrance? No, it's too dangerous. Kazuki tilted her head at me in confusion. Why was it dangerous? Time for a lecture. We don't really know what those monsters are physically capable of, do we? They were originally creatures from a video game, after all. I've fought them a lot in the game. That's not the issue. It's different fighting them in the game versus fighting them in real life. We haven't seen for ourselves how fast or smart they can be. And even if we do make it past the ones on the road, we don't know that there aren't more in the subway station. If there are, we'll have nowhere to run since we can't head back up the stairs. That's the worst possible scenario. Which was another reason why I wanted to approach things from a safe spot. If we died before we could use Kazuki's power, there would be no point. We wouldn't be able to save Kurisu or hurt Wakue. Kazuki seemed to agree. I loaded the map image back onto my Pokécom. There's not enough time left to go around to another station and head around from there. I thought about heading down the tracks from Shinsen, Daikanyama, or Omotesando stations, but that just wasn't realistic. Those stations were still running. If one of the staff got us sneaking onto the tracks, we might lose valuable time. Was there any other way? I glared at the map. It seems like there should be a way through on the map. On the map, at least. The 100-meter radius around the portal device was just a safe zone the police had established. If we used that as a base to look at where in Shibuya was safe to travel, as long as we could get through the Seibo department store right next to the Tatsuya, we could make it onto the Scramble Crossing, and we had Kazuki's D-Sword to do that. There we go, travel by catapult. There were no portal devices in Scramble Crossing as of yesterday. A new one might have appeared, but that whole area was a complex maze, both above and below ground, and we might be able to escape. Let's go this way. Kazuki looked at the route I showed her and quickly nodded. The sky was a cheerful blue, but beneath it, the buildings were quiet as the dead. As we ran through the streets, we could hear the distant howls of monsters. I felt like I'd become a character in a video game. We were going through a tiny, tiny safe area, dodging between the various danger spots. And that safe area was just something I'd come up with quickly, and hadn't had a long time to think about. There was no guarantee at all it was actually safe. The stress of knowing that a monster might leap out at us at any minute started to wear me down. But still. We broke open the shutter at Seibo department store and ran through the building. Then across the abandoned Scramble Crossing and under the bridge. And somehow managed to reach the Hikario. The door was open wide, and I could see many homeless people inside. I hadn't seen this many people together for days. There were hundreds of them. Some were sleeping on beds made of cardboard, and others were enjoying a lunchtime banquet of drinks and snacks. All the voices overlapped into a chaotic spiral of noise. I felt strangely at home. Kazuki and I looked at each other. This is more than enough people. Ready? We had less than 15 minutes until noon. Do it. Kazuki took a deep breath. Super strong sumo sticker! And screamed into the Hikario. Super strong sumo sticker! Again. Super strong sumo sticker! And again. Super strong sumo sticker! All the people gathered at the Hikario were staring in shock at this teenage girl who'd shown up out of nowhere and started shouting nonsense at them. All the noise in the entrance hall faded into dead silence. Super strong sumo sticker! Kazuki's voice was the only thing you could hear. Super strong sumo sticker! It sounded like some kind of gag. She only screamed the one phrase. Her goal was to imprint it as deeply as she could into the minds of the people here. That was the best plan we could come up with in the short amount of time we had. There might have been a better way, but as exhausted and stressed out as we were, it didn't seem likely that we'd be able to come up with it. Of course, I didn't expect this plan to work. It was barely even a plan at all. But even so, since Kazuki's power couldn't be controlled, there was no telling what exactly it could do. The possibilities were infinite. The same way it had created those portal devices all around Shibuya and the monsters that came with them. Maybe it would do something we didn't expect. My hope was that it would create a sumo sticker stronger than all the ones in Shibuya combined. At this point, it was all luck. I had no idea what would happen. Maybe nothing would. There wasn't much time left at all until noon. These last 10 minutes were all we had left. All we could hope for was that something would appear that would help us fight Wakui. There was barely anything I could do, except maybe stay here with Kazuki. Super strong sumo sticker! Kazuki must have hurt her throat from screaming so much. She suddenly started to cough and heave. But she kept yelling. Super strong sumo sticker! Super strong sumo sticker! Super strong sumo sticker! It's time. Kazuki gasped and fell silent. But that's enough. But nothing had happened yet. Nothing happened. That was the reality. There just wasn't enough time for Kazuki's power to create something. Kazuki, you did great. We'd lost our chance to fight back. And at this rate, we wouldn't be able to save Kurisu either. The regret threatened to overwhelm me. But I couldn't run away now. I had to go. I told myself that I couldn't stop here. I'm sorry, Kazuki. This all happened because you saved me. There we go. Kazuki, you're saying it wrong. You have to call it Super Strong Horsehawk Test 11. Together. Kazuki whispered and softly took my hand. I gripped her hand back. Her warmth made me feel just a little bit better. The only good thing about this was that Kazuki said she'd stay with me until the end. Otherwise, I might have been too scared to go. Now look up. Go to Wakui. That's your last chance to save Kurisu. The homeless men were still looking at us in shock. We ignored them and headed for the elevators, still holding each other's hands. The theater cube was on the 11th floor of the Hikari-o. The entrance hall was called the Sky Lobby, and it was an all-glass observation deck. You could look out and see Shibuya from there. Even at this height, I could see how empty the town was. It was like time itself had stopped. Hey, you almost didn't make it. The entrance was empty except for Wakui. He spoke like he was still our teacher, and we were still his students. It's pissed me off. He was a bag of shit wearing the skin of a teacher. I hated myself for not seeing it sooner. There was a single chair next to him. Kurisu was sitting in it. Kurisu! She didn't respond. She wasn't tied down or restrained in any way. She was sitting up straight, her posture excellent, with her hands on her lap. Her expression was lifeless. Her eyes were open, but there was no sparkle in them. He couldn't have... What did you do to Kurisu? Nothing, really. I just brought out a little bit of past trauma. You bastard. I didn't hurt her physically at all. I just needed her to be quiet for a little while. I don't think it's fair to criticize me. My vision turned red with rage. I was overtaken with the impulse to punch him in the face. Kazuki gripped my hand tighter. Our eyes met. She said nothing, but she sadly shook her head. I thought I could tell what she was trying to say. Don't resist. We'd come here to be killed. We would turn ourselves over to Wakui in exchange for Kurisu. We'd run out of ideas. Kazuki's words hadn't worked. Our last hope was to do whatever Wakui wanted. I gripped my fists tightly and swallowed my anger. Please release Kurisu. We're not going to fight you. Oh, really? Wakui chuckled and put his hand on Kurisu's shoulder in a friendly way. Sticks and stones would break her bones, but names leave lasting psychological scars. That was almost enough to bring the anger back. I thought I saw you trying something down there, though. Huh? Shit, he'd found out. Kazuki couldn't speak. I had to come up with something. But it ended up not working. So we gave up and came here. It's not that big of a deal to you, right? You're so much more powerful. If you want to kill us, then go ahead and kill us. But at least don't hurt Kurisu. You can at least do that, right? So you want to die that badly, Miyashiro? I gulped. I'd rather die than go through what I experienced yesterday. It would be easier. Why would you tell this to a man who is very clearly going to toy with your body before you die? Like, Takaru, what the fuck is wrong with you? I spoke honestly. I see. I see. The committee didn't actually tell me to kill you two. Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. That wasn't quite right. They told me not to kill Kazuki. You're a valuable sample, you see. As for Miyashiro, well, they honestly don't care that much. She gave me her permission to kill you, so I suppose it's up to me. Huh? Who was she? What did he mean it was up to him? Well, we can work out what to do with Miyashiro later. He laughed mockingly and took out a sword. Its shape was so awful, so terrifying that just seeing it made me want to throw up. It felt like the physical embodiment of what a piece of shit Wakui was. First, we'll take Kazuki. He put the blade up to Kurisu's neck and drive her to despair. Oh no. Wait! That wasn't the deal! Instantly, Kazuki shook off my hand and made her own D-sword appear. The blade whipped about like a snake and then hardened into a solid, straight form. She flung it straight at Wakui. It was just a quick snap of the wrist with no wind-up at all, but it flew so fast that it created shockwaves as it traveled. Wakui blocked it with his own blade. See, you do want to resist. You shouldn't lie to your teachers, you know. Let's teach that lying mouth of yours a lesson. Suddenly and inexplicably, Kazuki stuck out her tongue. What? What was she doing? She looked up towards the ceiling and stuck it out more. She stood up on her tiptoes, her legs shaking like a newborn fawn's, and her hands flapping desperately to keep balance. It was like she was being pulled upwards by an invisible fishing hook that had pierced right through her tongue. Kazuki, what's wrong? Tears formed in the corner of her eyes. Her expression contorted in pain. Her eyes looked to me for help. Didn't your parents ever tell you when you were little? If you lie, the Lord of Hell will rip out your tongue. I felt something cold run down my back. I had a very bad feeling. Ah! Stop it! There was no time for me to even reach out my hand before Kazuki bit off her own tongue. Oh! Blood spurted everywhere. Her frail body lost its balance and collapsed. Kazuki! I ran over and held her in my arms. Her eyes had rolled into the back of her head, and bubbles were pouring from her mouth as her body spasmed with pain. Huh? But there was no blood around her mouth. So, what had I just seen? Confused, I used my fingers to open her mouth. Her tongue was still there. It hadn't been severed. I looked around and couldn't see any pieces of it lying on the floor. Wakui was grinning. I'm sure a realistic dream of biting off your own tongue is quite the traumatic experience. But we're only just getting started. I need Kazuki to be very thoroughly broken. That's what we do with samples. I didn't even feel any rage. There was only powerlessness and despair. There was no point in even trying to fight him. And I couldn't save anyone. Not Kurisu, not Kazuki, not even myself. Everything was up to Wakui now. All I could do was wait for the moment of my death, like cattle. I hadn't even planned on fighting back when I'd come here anyway. I knew I probably wouldn't be able to save Kurisu. That's right. None of this was unexpected. I would be killed, and I wouldn't be able to do anything about it. There was nothing more to it than that. No matter how much I had to watch Kazuki and Kurisu suffer, they were all going to die anyway. It didn't matter. Once you died, the pain went away. I was tired. I just wanted this over with. Maybe I should bite off my own tongue. What? You're about to break too, Miyashiro? What a wimp you are. I'll show you what happens after we left off then. Wakui put the blade back to Kurusu's neck. Don't look away. Watch carefully. Look. The sharp blade sliced open the white flesh of her neck. Blood spurted out like a fountain. I watched it as if in a trance. Kurusu's head had slumped forward, so Wakui grabbed it and lifted it up so I could see her face. Her expression was blank. There was no sign of pain, no sign of resistance. That made me feel just a little bit better. At least she didn't suffer. Wakui's blade was extremely sharp, and it cut through Kurusu's neck like a knife through butter. It didn't seem real at all. It was like watching the death of one of the characters in the game I'd played with Kazuki. Wakui lifted up Kurusu's head and tossed it away. It landed on the ground in front of me as I lay there, her long hair wrapping around it as it rolled. I hadn't realized her head was so small. As I stared at it, someone walked over to me. I looked up. Kurusu's headless body was standing in front of me. The body slowly picked up the head, then went back to the chair. Then it put its head back on, the same way a person might put on a helmet. A low moan came from its mouth. Kurusu blinked several times and looked at me. Taku de. What was going on? What kind of nightmare was this? Why is her neck so thin? Like, girl, you need to see a chiropractor or something. Her head was connected to its body once more. Takura. Kurusu saw me and started to cry. Save me, Takura. Save me. What was happening? Why? Let's change things up a little for the second time. Huh? The second time? What did he mean, the second time? Wakui stuck the blade up against her neck again. Ah! Kurusu's features contorted with terror. Takura, save me! Please, save me, please! Stop! She just died. You just chopped off her head. So why was she asking me for help? No, I don't want to die. You already did. Don't look at me that way. Goodbye. No, 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 no! Stop. She screamed and shook as her neck was sliced open. Stop! Her screams quickly stopped and were replaced like a sound like air from a leaky pipe. I don't know why that was so hard for me to read. I apologize. Her head rolled down and landed on the floor with a thud. Stop it. Please. What was going on here? Why did Kurusu have to get her head cut off twice? Kurusu had nothing to do with this. She hadn't caused any problems for Wakui or the committee. This is an illusion. This was an illusion. That's right, an illusion. Just a delusion that Wakui was forcing me to experience. Kurusu wasn't killed twice. She was killed once, and the second was just an illusion. Pick it up. Huh? Wakui said something strange. Kurusu's body stood up and answered to her words and picked up her head again. Then she put it back on her body. Was she supposed to be that hero whose head was stuffed with red bean paste? This wasn't funny. It wasn't funny at all. But maybe laughing would have made it easier. My vision blurred. I realized I was crying. I started to hear Kurusu's sobs. Hey, Takura, why am I alive? He just cut off my head. Why? Tell me, Takura. Why is Mr. Wakui killing me? I felt like I was going to go crazy. I didn't want to see anymore. I wanted everything to go totally black. This was all a delusion. That's what I wanted to believe. When would it end? How many times would Kurusu have to have her head cut off before he'd finally let her die? many times would I have to see her head cut off before he'd finally let me die? I couldn't take it anymore. I was sick of this. If I could just destroy my own mind, then I wouldn't be able to feel anything. Exactly, let's play a rousing game of pin the head on the no-no. I could be at peace until I died. That would be great, wouldn't it? It would be okay, wouldn't it? Huh? And suddenly, there was a noise like a trumpet that filled the whole Shibuya sky. This sound, it can't be. For the first time, Wakui's expression changed to one of shock, and he looked directly at the still unconscious Kazuki. That's right, this sound was the one I'd heard already before. It can't be. Kazuki's power. Kazuki's words. Kazuki's delusions. Had one become real? The super strong sumo sticker? But if it had, what form was it going to take? If nothing else, I couldn't see anything happening near where we were. Both Wakui and I listened carefully. I tried to listen and see if there was anything to be heard, but Kurisa's sobs. I looked around desperately, trying to find the sumo sticker. What was it? What had changed? I heard a faint noise, like a rumble in the distance. It was far smaller than the sound of the trumpet I'd first heard, but the floor began to shake in answer to the sound. It wasn't an earthquake. The tremors were spaced too closely. It was outside. Something was happening outside. Ignoring Kazuki, Kurisu, and Makui, I staggered over to the glass window. Have we forgotten that we also get sick at the sumo stickers? I wanted to see it for myself. What form had Kazuki's last uncontrollable wish taken? In some tiny corner of my crippled heart, I thought to myself that maybe it would be nice if whatever it was destroyed this whole insane world. I realized that I was on the verge of going mad. But even so, I looked outside with a burning hope in my heart. I looked down at the city of Shibuya below, and there, I saw it. I suddenly realized that something was wrong, and I didn't want to admit that it could be real. I thought that it might be another illusion of Wakui's, but what the hell is that thing? Wakui had forgotten all about toying with me and was instead gazing at awe at the unbelievable sight before him. From the look of things, it wasn't something he had created. It was real. This was what Kazuki had created. When I realized this, I was awestruck. I mean, the scale was all wrong. It was holding the cylinder tower of the 10-7 building like you or I might hold a body pillow. It was shaped like a human. It was pretty pudgy. No, it was obese. The surface of its body was slick and shiny. Whether it was sweating or that's just what its skin was like, I couldn't tell. It was mostly naked except for a loincloth around its waist. Its black hair was oily and clung tightly to its head, but there was no top knot. Its hair was parted perfectly in the center. Strangely enough, its face had 2 mouths, 2 noses, and 3 eyes. It was not the face of a human. A sumo sticker. Its face was a sumo sticker. The center eye was closed, but the other 2 were flung wide open, and even at this distance I could see that the giant eyeballs were constantly moving. Its mouth was continually opening and closing. It didn't seem to be eating anything. Whether it was sleepy or thirsty, or maybe even trying to speak, I couldn't tell. Its movements were sluggish and lumbering. It was like a giant monster from a kaiju movie. Yeah, a giant monster. That was the perfect word for it. It was as tall as the 10-7 building, after all. Giant Sumo Sticker Man, at least that's what I decided to call him, had been very interested in his feet since the moment I'd first seen him. If I remembered right, there was a portal device over there, and the place was crawling with monsters. Giant Sumo Sticker Man lifted up one of his feet off the ground and flicked it a little. It was covered with monsters clinging to it. From this distance, they looked like tiny little pieces of garbage, but I could still see them. Giant Sumo Sticker Man kept shaking his left leg, but the monsters didn't let go. And then, the 2 mouths howled in unison, and it slammed its left leg into the ground. The monsters were knocked off. In fact, he'd crushed the portal device itself. The pyrokinetic had been annihilated when she touched the device, but evidently it wasn't capable of handling something the size of a giant sumo sticker man. The horrible portal device that had caused so much pain was crushed beneath the feet of giant sumo sticker man. Yeah, I can. The flashbacks to the darkness route of Raging Loop. That is definitely. I can see it. I started to laugh. This time, it wasn't out of resignation. I hadn't gone crazy. Faced with the overwhelming size and scale of giant sumo sticker man, after all the time I'd spent running and being afraid for the past week, it all just seemed kind of stupid. Wait. Whoa, wait. What the hell is that? It's impossible. It's insane. I could understand why Wakui was panicking. In the face of something like that, your only options were to laugh, scream, or pretend it didn't exist. Who the hell had dreamed that thing up? Multiple people had to share the same precise image down to the smallest details for Kazuki's words to become real. And some people have some really weird kinks. Was that what they'd taken from super strong sumo sticker? It was a miracle created by astronomical odds. The human imagination could be a scary, scary thing. Takara. Kazuki had woken up and staggered over to me. I quickly grabbed her body to steady her. Her mouth fell open too when she saw giant sumo sticker man. Is that... Did I... Yeah, I'm sure of it. Then... Kazuki closed her eyes tight. Can you beat up Mr. Wakui for me? As if in answer to her words. Giant sumo sticker man howled once more. And waved a giant arm, knocking down the 10-7 building tower. There we go. This is the symbol of my love for you, Takare. Look, if that doesn't say love, then I don't know what does. As rubble and dust flew up into the air, giant sumo sticker man looked at us. Did he recognize us? Or maybe Kazuki? Giant sumo sticker man's central eye opened. It was a black pupil with a crimson iris. And the third eye was looking straight at us. When it saw us, a sense of indescribable terror and exhaustion raced through my body. My knees started to shake, and I couldn't even stand. My vision blurred, my ears started to ring, and I felt like I was going to throw up. I imagined every drop of blood in my body freezing. My whole body started to shudder from the cold. It was a million times worse than the sumo stickers I'd seen around the city. What happened to Wakui? I forced myself to look through my blurred vision. He was kneeling on the floor and vomiting. It was working. Giant sumo sticker man was nullifying his power. Kazuki! Kazuki! Kazuki had gone pale and was clinging to me tightly. I shook her by the shoulders. Give him an order. Huh? Giant sumo sticker man might listen to what you tell him. Kazuki nodded through the pain. She looked back out at giant sumo sticker man. Come here. Come here. Her voice was a hoarse whisper. But he heard it. Giant sumo sticker man unleashed a mighty roar from both of his two mouths and took a slow, ponderous step forward. His blubber shook as he walked. He traveled the distance between the 10-7 building and Scramble Crossing in only a few steps. Maybe he could sense Kazuki's thoughts. I had no idea how it worked, and I didn't care. At this point, there was no point in even asking questions. I couldn't get distracted. Come here. What in the name of God did you people make? What is that ridiculous thing? Don't you know what that thing's gonna do to the rest of the world? Wakui stood up and slowly moved towards us, shaking and wobbling as he moved. I slid between him and Kazuki and pushed him away. He couldn't regain his balance and fell flat on his behind. I have no strength. Is this the power of the sumo sticker? I see. So that's it. That's why you made that thing. So what? It's an anti-gigalomaniac giant? That's insane. But don't think you've won. At almost the exact same moment that Wakui readied his D-sword once more, There was a roar from below that shook the whole building. I looked down to see what had happened. A giant sumo sticker man was lying on top of an elevated section of the Yamanote railway line. He must have tripped on it. He grabbed the side of the station building and used it to help himself up, crushing the tracks in the process. And then he moved forward and slammed himself into the side of the Hikario. Huh? The Hikario was struck with the force of hundreds, no thousands of yokozunas. The body slams continued, again and again. The building itself began to shake and buckle, and the shock waves sent us to the floor. The glass broke and poured down on us. I felt a cold wind on my skin. When the shaking finally stopped, I looked up to see what had happened to Kazuki and Kurisu. I was relieved to see that they hadn't fallen out of the window. But Wakui was still alive. He'd stood up before we had and was cursing us in rage. There was another huge shock. Wakui and the rest of us were knocked away. I was worried that the Hikario might break. I hate to ask, guys, but can you do something about that thing? Oh, no, never mind. I'll just kill you first. Wakui didn't even have the energy left to keep up his good teacher act. He readied his D-sword, his face flushed with anger. He attacked us in desperation, even though it was obvious he could barely stand. He was obsessed, but I wasn't ready to give up yet either. We finally had our own trump card, Giant Sumo Sticker Man. And I was every bit as obsessed with killing Wakui. You. I grabbed Kazuki's body in my arms and leapt outside through the broken window. Takure? The ground got closer and closer. I was scared. If I hit the ground at this speed, my bones would shatter, my body would be crushed, and I'd die in a spray of blood and organs. There was nothing to support me. Nothing to grab onto. I couldn't keep my balance in midair. I clung tightly to Kazuki. Kazuki, make it catch us! Kazuki quickly understood and looked for it. There was no need to look. Giant Sumo Sticker Man was right under us, clinging to the Hikario building. He twisted his neck to look up at us. A huge flabby hand was extended beneath us and caught us. It was soft, like a cushion. We were still going pretty fast, though, so the impact was intense. But at least we were alive. I looked up. I could see his arm, his shoulder, and his giant sumo sticker face. Seen from up close, it made me feel even sicker. A part of me wanted to jump off and die rather than stay here. Soft like a little sumo belly, I love it. I closed my eyes, gritted my teeth, and did my best to fight the impulse. Miyashiro! Kazuki! I could hear Wakui's voice from above. I looked up and saw that he had jumped out of the building, too. A huge bird, like something out of an encyclopedia of dinosaurs, had flown out from nowhere, and Wakui had grabbed onto its leg. It slid through the air towards us. That bird's from SO2, maybe. It's called a Quetzalcoatlus. I apologize if I just murdered that. It was pink and almost completely featherless. I could tell by comparing its size to Wakui that its wingspan was over 5 meters long. There was no such bird as that, and even if there were, it wouldn't live in the middle of Tokyo, and even if it did, it wouldn't be taking orders from Wakui. Wakui's delusions had created it. Wakui flew past Giant Sumo Sticker Man, slicing into its shoulder with his D-sword. Its two mouths moaned in pain. Instead of blood, white sumo stickers spurted out of the wound. The wind carried them across the Shibuya sky. Wakui spun around in midair for another attack. Kazuki? Then I realized that Kazuki was holding the sides of her temples in pain. Her body was so hot in my arms that I thought I might get burned. She was feeling weak. I wasn't sure if it was because of Wakui's attack or the fact that she'd used her power. Or maybe it was because she was giving orders to the giant sumo sticker man. Don't push yourself too hard. I screamed, unable to stand seeing her in that state. Yeah, that sounds something right, I think. I don't know. I gave it the good old college try. I screamed, unable to see her. I screamed, unable to stand seeing her in that state. But she immediately shook her head and looked at me in desperation. She spoke the words clearly. Let's defeat him. This is our only chance. We have our weapon, so use it. Could I do it? Kazuki grabbed me by the necktie as if to urge me on. She gritted her teeth and whispered in my ear through the pain. Takaru, you give it the orders. Then we can fight. I could do it. I could fight. In fact, I had a monster at my disposal that was capable of ripping Wakui in two, which meant I would use that power to survive. Got it. Kazuki nodded, and Giant Sumo Sticker Man's fingers closed around us. He brought his hand up and sat us on his shoulder. It was a little more unstable than its palm, but at least I wouldn't have to look at it. At least I wouldn't have to look at its face here. Just as I thought, moving up here made me feel a lot better. I had Kazuki summon her D-sword and plunge it into the silent Giant Sumo Sticker Man's neck, giving us support so that we wouldn't fall off. Miyashiro! Wakui was getting closer. He wasn't our club advisor or anything else. The committee of 300 could go to hell. Hit him! Giant Sumo Sticker Man's arm flew forward. He smashed Wakui with an open palm, the same way you'd swat a fly. Wakui landed hard near Memorial Park. The impact could have easily killed him, but he wasn't normal, so I wasn't going to show any mercy. Crush him! In a single bound, Giant Sumo Sticker Man covered the distance between here and Memorial Park. He could jump an amazing distance for a fat man. Kazuki and I clung as tightly as we could to the D-sword in order to avoid falling off. He landed hard, crushing the area where Wakui had fallen. The impact kicked up rubble and dust around his feet. Did we win? I looked down into the dust. Wakui's D-sword flew up through the cloud. It was so fast that there was no time to dodge. The sharp blade stabbed into my shoulder. Ugh! It tore through flesh and bone. The pain was incredible. I felt like I was going to pass out. Takara! Kazuki held me up. She grabbed my hand and placed it on the D-sword. It was just barely enough to keep me from falling. I bit my lip to get through the pain, and looked in the direction the sword had come from. Wakui was down there, covered in blood and looking up at us in fury, just a little from the spot where the Giant Sumo Sticker Man had landed. Miyashiro! Kick him away! Giant Sumo Sticker Man flicked Wakui away with his foot. Wakui's body flew like a ping-pong ball. At that point, the fight was over. But I wasn't done yet. Grab the weapon! By weapon, I meant the Shibuya Earthquake Memorial, which had survived the impact of the jump and was sticking out of the ground near the Giant Sumo Sticker Man's feet. He reached down and yanked it out of the earth. His eyes locked on Wakui as he flew through the air. This is it! Kazuki, we're gonna impale him! Giant Sumo Sticker Man flung back the arm holding the memorial. Go! Kazuki's will, and mine, dwelt within the giant sumo wrestler's body. His arm snapped forwards. The memorial was flung like a spear. The spear instantly crossed the speed of sound. With a sonic boom, it smashed right into Wakui and obliterated his body. And that was the end. The D-sword in my shoulder disappeared in a halo of light. Wakui was dead. He never had a chance. Yeah, there we go. This is our son together. It was a one-sided slaughter. The giant sumo wrestler howled into the open air. He was a destructive monster. He was a brutal giant. We had created something that threatened to destroy the balance of the entire world. I looked up at the Hikario and saw Kurusu waving at us from the shattered sky lobby window. We survived, huh? Yeah. For better or for worse, both Kazuki and I had survived. What awaited us now was a hell worse than anything we'd gone through so far. We might have brought this terror not only to ourselves, but to the entire world. Nothing about the world would ever be the same, and we'd be left to make our way in it, like lost and frightened children. Even without the Committee of 300's decision, Kazuki and I were enemies of the world for creating such a place. Maybe it would have been better if Wakui had killed us. There was that, and then the fact that I had no idea what we were going to do next, and then the fact that my shoulder was still bleeding and it hurt like hell, but Kazuki was in my arms, looking relieved and at peace. So at least for this one moment, I could be grateful for the warmth I felt. That's what I thought. I mean, are we really on the lam if we have a giant sumo sticker baby? All right. And we hit the deep sky end. Usually I'd go on. I'm very tired all of a sudden, and I apologize. I'm gonna do a shorter stream tonight, just because it's been a long day. Next stream Sunday 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. Sorry, my brain is just having problems with English all of a sudden. Let's see, quick announcements. Remember, you can get free COVID tests if you are in the US. Yeah, we both need some rest. Rest up, absolutely. Remember, COVID vaccines are now available, and that's all I got. Thanks so much for hanging out, guys. Thanks for understanding that I need to do a short stream tonight, and we'll be back on Sunday. Have a good night, all. Bye.